the obsession with travel to youth sports is pulling our families apart. It's disintegrating. I would put it right underneath social media as a cancer. It's not good. I don't see in 10 years that it's still functioning in the same way. Parents can't afford it. You got 3 other kids down the pipeline. You can't, it just, the math on the calendar doesn't work, right? It's just chaos. It's chaos.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Strength Coach Rants. I'm your host, Connor Lyons, and today we're going to be reacting to that phone call. So if you've watched any of my videos before, you know that I have a total disdain for what travel sports have become and the kind of rush to specialize at such a young age for kids. Year-round sports, specialization, and the total just disregard for people's lives that a lot of these travel coaches and organizations tend to have for families is something that I try to speak out against fairly often. This came up, this interview, I guess, came up in my YouTube recommendation, and I thought, wow, that looks really interesting. Let's give it a go. And it turns out like he's got some very based answers. So I'm going to start this. We'll stop it here and there. I'll give my 2 cents. We'll probably get copyright strike for this, which is fine. I think this is a really important conversation to have, and I really, really hope that people who saw this video yesterday or who are watching this one take what he says to heart, right? It's not just strength and conditioning coaches saying these things anymore, right? It's not just personal trainers. It's not just fitness quote unquote experts, right? There are regular everyday people who are now starting to understand how detrimental this is, not only to the development of your child, but to the well-being of your family. So I'm going to go ahead and start it. And like I said, throughout the video, I will pause it. We'll go over some stats, things like that. So hope you enjoy it. Here we go.
So what's up?
Perfect. We were wondering, my husband and I, we are kind of sick in the life of travel ball with our 10-year-old.
Oh, good.
And so I'm wondering if, in the long run, are we going to regret the amount of time and brain space and finances we spend on softball?
What is bringing you, why is this question bubbling up?
So I am we have 4 kids, and we kind of parent with the later is longer. We get you as adults far later, hopefully, than we do as kids. And so, my goal, we want to raise a functioning family unit that later we can still be functioning. There's too many dysfunctional adult kids running around.
All right, so this is actually a really good point. This mom is not just thinking about her child going off to play at the highest levels of competition. She wants to make sure that her family stays whole throughout this process. I think that's something that doesn't get talked about nearly as often as it should, that you have your one kid who is playing sports 7 days a week, traveling, playing year round. What about the other kid who gets dragged along to everything else? They didn't sign up for this. They didn't ask to not have a life, to not be able to hang out with their friends and to live at the hockey rink or the baseball field. They just get dragged along. And this mom feels that this is eventually going to be an issue. And that's a great thing to think about. And it is often not thought about or even brought up for most of these families. So kudos to her.
Not the goal. So,
well, don't do too good of a job, because you're going to put me out of a job.
Well,
I'm just playing. I got plenty of work to do. I got
we
plenty.
All do, right?
Yeah.
There's plenty of people out there that need you. I think we look at the amount of time we put in. She's 10. She has really big dreams, and I always want to support that, right? We always want to support them in their dreams and their endeavors. We are in some form practicing 6-7 days a week. Yeah. It is a lot of family time. And so, and as the others get a little older, I don't even know how it would be feasible to do this for 4 of them. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
right. What are her dreams? What are your 10-year-old's dreams?
Currently, she wants to play for Oklahoma, because what 10-year-old softball player doesn't, right?
Any softball kid from Texas does not want to play for Oklahoma.
That's fair.
That was just my Red River joke. But, okay.
So I just want to jump in here. When I was 10 years old, I played basketball. I loved basketball. I played middle school. We do the Hoop It Up tournaments every year. I played rec. I played in church league. Loved everything about basketball. And if my parents had gone all in on me when I was 10, right, I would have never even picked up a hockey stick or tried to play, much less been able to make it to the levels that I did, which, at the NCAA level, which kind of I was able to parlay into a career where I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I've worked with the women's national team. I'm about to work on the men's side of things this summer with the 17U national team. If they had just said, hey, you're going to play basketball and only basketball, none of that would have happened. So like what I wanted to do when I was 10 was not even like in the realm of like what I ended up doing, right? So things change all the time. So to go all in on a 10-year-old's dreams is very short-sighted for many reasons, but the biggest one is they will more than likely change their mind at some point in time. Just wanted to say that.
She wants to go to college and play, and she wants to play at the highest level.
Right.
And by the way, she wants to play at the highest level that exists right now through her 10-year-old lens, right?
Right.
Or let me put it this way. There's 0% chance that in 8 years, Oklahoma is still the number one team in the world, right? Or in the country or whatever.
Correct.
But she wants to go to college.
Right.
So I'm just going to go ahead and get myself canceled. Okay. And I'm saying this as a sports fanatic, as somebody who played what I would call the early origins of travel ball before it just became this high dollar business that it's like a big fire, and the wood that we use are children.
Right.
And the fire is not for the kids, it's for the adults.
So I just want to pause right here. That is such a good quote. It really is. When you figure out that youth sports have become a business, it is no longer in the best interest of the child. That doesn't mean that there aren't coaches who genuinely care about your child and their reaching of their dreams. But for the most part, the people who are at the top, who are making these calls and deciding what to do, are trying to generate a profit. That's the whole purpose of these businesses. And I don't disagree with them having like some kind of profit motive, but it's really gotten quite insane on a lot of levels. So, we are building this fire, right? And we're using the kids as wood. And that's exactly what's happening. We're burning through these kids. We're creating all kinds of issues that we'll talk about later in this video, creating all kinds of issues in an effort to make money off of their hopes and dreams, right? You've found that pain trigger, and they just push and push and push until you open up your wallet and kind of let some of that money out. So I just wanted to kind of make a point on that. I love that quote. I think it's spot on.
And so I would tell you, I have a 13-year-old and I've got an 8-year-old. I also would love for them to play college sports if they wanted to. I also require them to do one physical activity every semester, or every trimester, if you will. So my son runs. I ran track in college. He's a cross country kid. My daughter has done gymnastics. Now she's in taekwondo. My son will end up in jiu-jitsu class. So all these things are important. So I'm saying that as a context to also say travel sports are destroying American families, period.
Okay.
Period. And you, as a well-tuned in mom, are feeling the pressure, if you don't do this, from these external coaches. If you don't do this, then your kid's not going to make this team. And if they don't make this team, there's no way they're going to get on this. And if they're not on this team, then how are they going to, right? You feel that. And it makes sense. And you have a 10-year-old telling you, I love this. I love it. I love it. I want to do it. I want to do it. I want to do it.
2 points here. Your kid would probably love to eat ice cream and pizza for dinner every night, but like you don't let them do that, right? Just because they love something doesn't mean that it's the best thing for them. And it's really hard because it's like fitness, right? They're moving around. We think like it's great because it's active, but it can still be detrimental to them. If your kid wanted to go run a marathon every single day, right? 26.1 miles, you would probably see that as possibly an issue and assume that they have some kind of eating disorder or something like that, right? But they love it. You probably wouldn't allow them to continue to to want to do that, just like you wouldn't allow them to continue to eat ice cream and pizza for dinner every night because you understand that it's not good for them. Year-round sports and specialization at such a young age, playing every single day, is also not good for them. I forgot the second point I was going to make, so we'll move on.
And then you got that feeling in your mom gut that like something's off.
Right.
Fair?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. That's kind of where I'm at, is that she takes the initiative and wants to practice and wants to put in the extra work. And I love that it's teaching her that hard work pays off. And I love some of the lessons, but it is, you're right. My mom gut is saying, is this steering us in the direction we want to go?
This is not every kid, okay? But this is many, I would say the vast majority of kids find themselves in what a strange, the nerd word is recursive relationship with the adults in their life. Their bodies are highly, highly, highly attuned to when the safe adults in their life, you and your husband, look at them and your eyes get that very particular size that says, "Oh yeah, I'm proud of you." And it starts at a very, very young age. Right. And kids become so attuned to that, and they will chase it and chase it and chase it and chase it. It's similar to, I have inadvertently, I didn't mean to do this, because I eat really clean most of the time in our house.
I'm here for that.
When I go get a donut or an ice cream or something like that, I always bring my kids. I'm like, let's go break the bank. And they're like, ah. You know what I've trained them? Is that special times require poisoning yourself. Close connection with dad equals this. And so what they do is they're always asking, can I have some ice cream? Can I have some ice cream? Can I have some ice cream? And yes, ice cream's good. The sugar's good and addictive and blah, blah, blah. What they're really asking is, I want to connect with dad, and I know how to do that.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
So this is also something to be careful about. A lot of kids they strive for their parents, like, what's the word I'm looking for? They strive for the approval of their parents, right? So they're going to, if they find that you are happier, right, with them, or you tell them, like he said, how much you approve and are proud of them, then they're going to continue to want to do that thing, even if they don't necessarily feel like doing it, right? So you have parents who try to live vicariously through their kids, and sometimes I think it's kind of like, it's like that, but reverse, where the kid is doing everything they can to be good at this thing so that their parents will approve of them. It's like a drug, right? You need to chase that over and over and over again. That's why as parents, it's so important, right, that we show our kids that we love them in other ways, and that we approve of other things that we're doing, or that they're doing, and not just like when they're playing sports, right? Because that can create that negative relationship, or what will inevitably end up being a negative relationship with that sport, where they may continue to do it even if they absolutely hate it, just to get your approval.
Pattern now.
It's a pattern, but the pattern is not about ball. The pattern is about, I want to make mom and dad see me and love me, and I found the way to do it. Right. And all the other adults in the world, and and my fellow classmates. So it begins to expand really quickly.
Yeah.
And your 10-year-old finds herself as the head of household. She decides what the family's doing on the weekend. She decides where the money's spent. She decides what y'all eat. And you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's when I think about how much money we've spent for a fourth grade, an elementary schooler's softball hobby, it's laughable.
Right. If you just invested that into 529, you'd be able to pay outright for Oklahoma, and she could be.
So I'll link in the description a video that I did on the commercialization of youth sports and what they cost and what these families are spending. And it is insane. There are families that play certain sports. I went into depth about hockey just because it's kind of like my wheelhouse. I spent a lot of time playing it and coaching it, who will take out loans because they cannot afford to play the sports. They will take out loans, whether they're via a bank or a family member or a friend, to try to ensure that their kids can continue to play this game, which is absolutely wild when you factor in, right, that the odds of your child ever getting a full ride, like 1% of the 550,000 NCAA athletes receive a quote unquote full ride. Most kids are getting a little bit of money. Some are getting like a good amount of money, but the vast majority of them are getting zero money, right? So if you're in your head thinking, I'm going to spend this money now so that we can go to college for free, get that out of your head, because it is not, I hesitate to say it's not a possibility, but essentially it's not a possibility. All right, so he made a very good point there. You put that into a college savings account, and you could probably outright, pay to just go to school, and they could be the king of intramurals, right?
Best intramural softball player in the whole, right?
Exactly.
Buy Oklahoma soon.
So here's my thought on it. It's our job to ignite passion in our kids, to support them, and to set boundaries for them.
Right.
And so I'm all like I say, my kids have to do something athletic, something outside, something as a part of a team. That's so good. And they also have to know this house does not revolve around you. You have a seat in the middle or the back of the bus that is driving, because it revolves around me and your mom.
So this is actually like a really important thing here that I personally had not thought about when it comes to this whole year-round specialization, dumping all this money into sports and whatnot. Your kid essentially runs the household, right? You are doing everything that the kid wants to do. Your life bends to the will of the child, and that is a very unhealthy dynamic, right? And that can contribute to some of the issues that we have right now within society, where everyone has main character syndrome, and then when they get out in the real world, they cannot handle the fact that they are not the most important thing, right? So taking your family and just kind of bending your life around what it takes to get them to and from sports, it probably creates like a very, very unhealthy relationship with that child within your family. And it's going to set them up for disaster down the road, more than likely.
And it's
I like that.
But that means you got to say no.
Yeah.
That means you got to say, I'm going to take some time off. Now, here's some physiology. And this isn't just me trying to make social science arguments. This is coming directly from my close friends, and I've been at multiple universities, and friends that are athletic trainers. And what they are screaming to a chorus of no one will listen to them, is that these kids who become really good at a young age, they show some proclivity to soccer or to baseball or to softball or whatever it is, and they just, their whole world shrinks overnight to that sport, and they get a batting coach and a pitching coach. They get on a travel team. They play fall ball, summer ball, spring ball.
Mm-hmm.
What they're finding is joint overuse injuries in 18-year-olds that are usually reserved for geriatric populations.
Hey, we have a 10-year-old with perineal tendonitis right now.
That right. And so here's the way to avoid that is they have to take some time off from that sport.
Right.
Yeah. Tendonitis in a 10-year-old is not, I mean, that's all you need right there. Her body is saying no. Right.
So perineal tendonitis isn't necessarily something that came from just playing one sport. That could happen with anybody. It more than likely came as a result of playing too much, right? Too high a volume and not working on your athleticism, right? So perineals are, if you look at the bottom part of your leg, the outside, if you were to push on the side of like your calf, those muscles run there and they transfer and deal with a lot of force. So if you're repetitively, if you're a runner, you can sometimes experience some tenderness there. But a tendonitis, that means this kid has been doing like way too much for way too long for it to get to that point. And the fact that a 10-year-old has tendonitis anywhere other than, you've got some quote unquote jumper's knee, it can happen in the patellar tendon. But again, that means their volume is entirely too high. So hopefully this mom takes his advice and peels back a little bit, because your 10-year-old shouldn't have tendonitis. That's wild.
Her body's saying no.
Right.
And the way you combat that is soccer. Tell her to go play Y.
So that's not how you combat that. That is I need rest thing, and I need to learn how to be an athlete thing, not necessarily playing a different sport. Just want to correct him there. But he's not wrong. You also want to play other sports.
Soccer, or tell her to go do a taekwondo class. Move your body, but do it differently. Use different muscles, different movements. lateral patterns instead of front and back. You see what I'm saying? It's about treating this whole person, not professionalizing a 10-year-old. So your mom instincts are right on.
That's what I've been struggling because, I don't want to like crush her little dreams, but I'm also, it's a lot, for 10.
I don't know of, and again, I don't have the data in front of me, and somebody's going to, if you have something different, email it to the show, johndeloney.com/ask. I want to know the meta-analysis, put the link to the paper in that note and send it to me if you have it. I'm talking to the listeners out there. I know of zero studies that suggest travel ball equals college scholarship.
There are no studies, not a single one.
Over and above a regular kid who develops normally, who then goes on to perform at college.
So I will, as an aside here, I worked at a tennis academy, a world-renowned tennis academy for years. And these kids played tennis between 4 and 6 hours a day, every single day of the week. It was a rarity that they even had a Sunday off because they would typically be off playing tournaments, right? So these kids are playing, 30-plus hours of a single sport, a single-sided sport all week, and what's funny is very few of these kids actually ended up making it to the next level. What happened to most of them is they had some kind of overuse and had to quit, overuse injury. They got burnt out and quit, or they made it to the next level. And after about a year, they quit because they finally got out from under the thumb of the academy or their parents. And they said, wow, I can have a social life and do stuff. Like, I'm in college. Like, screw this. I'm not playing tennis anymore. I'm just going to go have fun. So the kids that I have worked with that have made it in tennis were not academy kids. The amount of time I was at this place, there are 2 kids that I know that ended up making it to the professional ranks. One of them does very well in women's doubles, and the other one is just now climbing the ladder in men's doubles. So it's, all that time, $60,000, $70,000 a year to come out and get a partial scholarship in college, probably 30 to 50% of your college paid for, to turn out and be, as of right now, a relatively mediocre doubles professional, right? So I would say the ones who end up being great, quote unquote great, are not the kids that play every day. They're the kids who go and they play in high school and they do tournaments, but they're not starting when they're 7, and they really come into their own. They play some other sports, and so there's no studies that I'm aware of, but my anecdotal evidence suggests that the specialization at such a young age in the year-round sports actually are detrimental to your overall development and success as an athlete.
And I'm not even the amount of players that get scholarships anyways are so small. That's not even in my mind for something like softball, because
Well, can I tell you, it's actually not true. Tons of kids get scholarships.
for softball, really.
But at D2 schools, at 1A, D1, 2A schools, DA, right? The NAI schools, it's not NAI anymore, but there's so many opportunities to play. So many.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And who knows what happens when she blows her knee out in her junior year of high school. Or, like me, I dropped the baton in first place as a anchoring the mile relay team my senior year. And I never wanted to run again.
Yeah.
And I went to college and I farted around for a year. I trained with the team, never ran a meet, and then I ended up moving on. It absolutely sucked the soul out of me. And not so much like, oh, you got to get back on the horse. I realized I'm not passionate about this anymore.
I don't want back on this horse.
Yeah, it wasn't like I couldn't get back on. I just didn't want to.
Right.
And it took a earth-shattering moment to bring me to that. All that to say is, I'll reiterate it. The obsession with travel to youth sports is pulling our families apart. It's disintegrating. I would put it right underneath social media as a cancer. It's not good. I don't see in 10 years that it's still functioning in the same way. Parents can't afford it. You got 3 other kids down the pipeline. You can't, it just, the math on the calendar doesn't work, right? It's just chaos. It's chaos.
Yeah. Season is chaos. So
So She said, yeah, the season is chaos. I don't think that's really what he was getting at. He's saying that it creates chaos within your household, right? Because now this 10-year-old is ruling the roost here. She is the one making the calls, like he said earlier, about like what we do on the weekends, what our schedules look like, what my siblings have to do, how much money is being spent. So it creates chaos within the home, which is going to, in turn, create chaos in your children's lives moving forward. I mean, obviously the season is also chaos. I don't know how some of these kids like don't lose it, or these parents at least that are driving these kids everywhere. But like it creates chaos in your life, not just the sport itself.
Glad to hear. I mean,
What is husband going to say?
oh, he's the best. Are you kidding? I mean, he's I think that, we're big onto like moving your body and eating healthy, and he loves supporting her. But I think that we both feel like maybe it's a little out of balance right now.
Yeah.
So I think we know, it's just a matter of trying to still let her do what she loves, maybe in a not as intense form.
Well, and I think letting her know, hey, if you do want to go play college ball, what the college sports professionals and even the professional coach professionals will tell you. I mean, people always want to throw like LeBron around, right? So move LeBron off. He is an N equals 1. There's only one LeBron, right?
Right.
They'll tell you, I don't know anything about you at 10 years old.
Right.
This is actually a really good point. I work with a lot of kids, even at young ages, who are off playing showcases when they're 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. And I just want to be 100% transparent and honest with you. No one gives a shit what your stats are at 10U, 12U, even most 14U. It doesn't matter, right? So you going off and spending $4,000 on some showcase to get looked at by somebody isn't like, that is such a waste of time and money, and it puts a lot of pressure on the family because that's not a small amount of money, and it puts a lot of pressure on the kid because regardless of if they understand what the cost is, like they can feel it, right? They know when money's tight in the house, and if money's tight in the house because we keep dumping money on our 11-year-old's baseball fantasy, right? Then that's going to rub off on the kid in the worst of ways, right? So I think it's just kind of important to point that out.
Puberty changes everything. Passion changes everything. Dad gets sick when she's a freshman in high school, changes everything. I mean, who knows what happens? Mm-hmm. College is basically half her life away. And the idea that we are trying to invest in this thing. And so I think letting her know, if you want to go to college, the best thing to do is you got to play a bunch of different sports. Like, yeah. Oh, okay, cool. And you got to do some really intensely and some just go be silly and have fun with your friends.
This is a really, really big point, huge point. Structured play is far too often the only kind of play time that kids get, right? So when there's like a rep and there's a coach telling you what to do, there needs to be a lot more unstructured play. When the play is structured, there's a lot more pressure and kids aren't nearly as creative. They won't reach their like IQ ceiling as far as the sport goes, right? In hockey, we call it your hockey IQ. I would imagine in basketball and baseball, it's the same thing. So if they're not allowed to be creative and make mistakes when it doesn't matter because it's unstructured, right? They're never, ever going to get any better. They'll be afraid to take that chance. And we're kind of seeing that as these Zoomers start to turn into adults. They're afraid. They're really afraid to take chances and take leaps because they've really never been able to because every bit of their life has been structured. I love capitalism and I think it's a great thing, but I do find issue with the fact that now we have outsourced everything to a professional, right? What I do, like hire somebody to teach your kids to lift weights, hire somebody to teach your kid how to run, how to play a sport, how to swing a bat, how to throw a ball, how to shoot a hockey puck versus how to skate on the ice, right? There's professionals for everything, and we have forgotten the art of letting kids figure it out, right? And it is actually destroying them. So unstructured play is huge, and kids don't get nearly enough of it. They should be able to go out and have fun and goof off with their friends playing meaningless sports that are just fun because they're fun.
Right.
And letting her know, no, if you're still working towards your goal, it's not as though you're cashing out on your goal. But if that's the path forward, because the other path is just going to lead you to shoulder surgery at the age of 17, a knee surgery at the age of 18, and then you're going to have knee replacement and hip replacement surgery in your 40s. We're not doing that. I love you.
It'd probably be closer to in your late 20s to early 30s on those knees and hip replacements, the way things are going now, not your 40s. So,
Much.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, you said the other day on a show, love your kids with boundaries. Why are you afraid to love your kids with boundaries? And that has stuck with me because I'm like, that's definitely not a strong point of mine.
Well, it's hard, and especially when the chorus of parents and coaches around us tell us, if you don't do this, you're failing your kid.
Yeah.
And that dreaded phrase for every parent, your kid's going to get behind.
Right.
And all of us have felt behind at one time or another, and we never want our kids to feel that. And I want to tell you, that's a myth. It's not true, especially for a 10-year-old. 18-year-old, she's 18 and decides to take off her senior year. Yeah, going to college is going to be really hard on a college scholarship, right? That's going to be hard. If she's there and she's all in, she's on the varsity team, she's all state, dude, go all in on that. I'm all about that. But she's 10.
We've tried like reframing it for her. Like, you have to give room for your dreams to change, because when I was 10, like I couldn't even dream up what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? So
we'll go ahead and end it there because it kind of turns into a lot of that. But like, he makes so many good points, and hopefully this mother and the people listening are taking all this to heart, because like the damage that your kids are doing right now by specializing in sports and playing year round. And it's not even just physical, right? We've kind of talked today about how it can destroy like the family dynamic. It can lead your kids to like not be willing to take chances. Orthopedic issues, right? Overuse issues. We're not talking about broken bones. Those happen, right? And there's nothing you can typically do about those. But the arthritic hips in the early 30s, because I played the same sport for 20 years since I was 4 years old, and only that sport, like that's all avoidable, right? And what we're finding now is kids who specialize and play year round at a young age deal with depression and anxiety at a higher level than kids who don't. So every data set that we have says don't do this, yet we still listen to these sport coaches who have a like profit motive to tell us things like this, right? To hit those pain points where your kid's going to get left behind. If you don't make this team, you're not going to make that team. If you get left behind here, you'll never catch up. And all that's absolute nonsense. Like, as an athlete, you should not be all into one sport realistically until you're 17, 18, maybe 16. I could see it if you are like a Connor Bedard, right? But most kids don't need to be that kind of all in to the sport itself until their junior, senior year. And even then, you can still play other sports and you're going to be super well-rounded. The problem now is that we have inverted like the long-term athletic development model. We have specialized at 8, 9, 10 years old. Then by the time we get to 15, 16, 17, parents realize, holy shit, my kid is not fast. My kid is not strong. My kid's mobility is atrocious. I've got to catch up now, when in reality, what we should have been doing is working on those qualities when they were like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then when they're 15, 16, 17, and that's all part of like their toolbox, all that speed, power, mobility, durability, work capacity. Now I can take that and specialize in this sport and excel. But we have completely inverted that pyramid, and it's to the detriment of a lot of kids. But a ton of sports organizations are making a ton of money, and that's really what it's about at the end of the day. I'm going to stop there before I ramble for another minute. Hope you learned something. Hope you really got something out of the conversation as well, right? That's somebody who's not well-versed in sports, who has a good understanding because he listens to the people who are telling him that it's a problem right now, right? So do not specialize at 10. Stop. Allow your kids some unstructured play with their sport and just in general. Let them figure it out. Let them take chances when it doesn't matter, when there's no pressure. Don't dump all of your money into a sport that your kid might not even like in a year. But give them boundaries, right? Like you said, love them with boundaries. You can want what's best for them and have to tell them, no, that's not how we're going to do it, because it's not actually what's best for you. I know you love this sport. I know you love doing this, that, X, Y, Z, right? But that's not what's best for you right now. So we're going to take a season off, or we're going to take the summer off, or we're going to just try this other sport, see if you even, maybe you like it better. So those things are incredibly important to the development of your child, whether they're going to be an athlete or just a normal human being functioning in society. Like I said, I'll shut it down there. Hope you learned something. Tune in next week. I think I probably got about another 3 or 4 weeks in me before the summer hits and we really start getting too busy for me to be doing these. But keep tuning back every week. Give us a follow. Give us a like, or I guess not a follow, a subscribe, and a like, and keep watching the videos, and I'll keep making them. Everybody have a good weekend.